This is the mystery of why your spider plant blooms, and the answer is far stranger than you think. You've had this plant for years. It sits on a shelf or hangs in a corner, quietly doing its thing, tolerating your inconsistent watering schedule, surviving that week you forgot it existed entirely. Whether yours is a classic Vegetative with white striped leaves or a Variegatum with green margins, they all share this quirk. And then one morning, you notice something you've never seen before. Tiny white flowers, barely the size of a dime, blooming along a long, wiry stem that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. 6 delicate white petals arranged in a perfect star shape with little yellow stamens bursting from the center. Your first thought is probably, wait, this thing flowers? Yes, it does, and the reason why is one of the most fascinating stories in houseplant biology. Let's start with what we're actually looking at. Chlorophytum comosum, that's the scientific name, from the Greek words chloros, meaning green, and phyton, meaning plant. Not the most creative name, admittedly. You probably know it as the spider plant, though it also goes by spider ivy, airplane plant, ribbon plant, and even hen and chicks. It belongs to the family Asparagaceae. It's native to tropical and southern Africa, and it thrives wild in forested river valleys, on steep embankments, on cliffs, and in mountainous regions from sea level up to over 1,000 meters in elevation. Carl Peter Thunberg first formally described it in 1794, known as the father of South African botany, who collected it during an expedition near Uniondale in South Africa. This plant has graced human homes for well over a century. The Victorians adored it, calling it the ribbon plant for its elegant variegated leaves. It dominated earth-toned living rooms in the 1970s. Dr. Bill Wolverton's NASA research tested it for air purification in 1989, specifically for its ability to remove formaldehyde and benzene from indoor air. During the COVID lockdowns of the early 2020s, it became one of the most sought-after houseplants all over again. By some accounts, it's the most cultivated houseplant in the world. Yet most people who own one have never seen it bloom. Here's why. Those flowers last about a week. That's it. If you water your spider plant every 10 days or so, and the blooming window falls between waterings, you might miss the entire event. The flowers are small, less than an inch across, and they appear on trailing stems that can stretch up to 3 feet long. They're beautiful, but they're quiet about it. So what actually triggers the bloom? This is where it gets genuinely interesting, because the spider plant doesn't respond to light the way you might assume. It responds to darkness. The phenomenon is called photoperiodism, and it's one of the most important concepts in plant biology. Many plants track the seasons not by measuring how much light they receive, but by measuring how long the darkness lasts without interruption. This process relies on a light-sensitive protein called phytochrome that acts as the plant's internal clock. For spider plants, the signal to produce those long, flowering stems, called stolons, gets triggered when the plant experiences less than 12 hours of light per day for at least 3 consecutive weeks. The plant is essentially counting the hours of uninterrupted night. When those dark periods are long enough and consistent enough, the plant interprets this as a seasonal signal. Time to reproduce. Now, here's where it gets a little contradictory, and honestly, a little confusing even for experts. A 1978 study published in the Journal of the American Society for Horticultural Science found that long days and warm temperatures actually led to more flowers and faster bloom production. So which is it? Short days trigger the flowering stems, but long days produce more flowers? The answer appears to be both. The initiation of the reproductive stems seems to be a short-day response, while the actual flower production and development benefits from warmth and light. This is part of why indoor spider plants can bloom at essentially any time of year. The artificial lighting conditions inside your home don't follow the neat seasonal patterns the plant evolved with in coastal Africa, so the signals get mixed, and sometimes the plant just goes for it. But light cycles aren't the only trigger. There's a second mechanism at play, and this one is arguably even more fascinating. Stress, specifically root stress. A spider plant that's slightly root-bound, meaning its roots have filled the pot and are starting to get cramped, is significantly more likely to bloom and produce baby plants than one with plenty of room. This seems counterintuitive. Why would a stressed plant invest energy in reproduction? The answer is evolutionary. When a spider plant's roots encounter the walls of a pot, or in nature, when they hit rock or compacted soil, the plant interprets this as a signal that its current location has limited resources. When resources are limited, the smartest survival strategy isn't to keep growing bigger, it's to send out offspring. Those long arching stems aren't just carrying flowers, they're carrying the next generation. In the wild, those stems would droop down until the baby plantlets at their tips touch soil, where they'd root and establish themselves as independent plants. The mother plant is literally launching its children to new territory. This is why experienced plant owners will tell you not to repot your spider plant too often. Give it a bigger pot and you'll get a lush, green, leafy mother plant. But you probably won't get babies. Keep it slightly cramped, and it kicks into reproductive overdrive. There's a paradox here with fertilizer, too. You might think that feeding your spider plant more would encourage blooming. The opposite is often true. Excess fertilizer, especially nitrogen-heavy formulas, pushes the plant to produce more leaves at the expense of flowers. You end up with a very bushy, very green plant that never blooms. If you want flowers, a balanced, low nitrogen fertilizer applied every 4 to 6 weeks during spring and summer is the way to go. Some growers even use bloom-boosting fertilizers to nudge the process along. So let's say everything aligns. The light cycles are right, the roots are snug, the fertilizer is balanced. What happens next? The plant sends out those wiry, trailing stems from its center. Small white flowers bloom at nodes along the stems, each one lasting only about a week. If those flowers get pollinated, and in the wild this happens via insects, they produce small triangular seed pods containing 3 to 5 flat black seeds. But here's the thing. Most indoor spider plants are cultivated varieties and hybrids, and seeds from these plants often won't grow true to type. They might not even be viable. The plant knows this in its own way, which is why it doesn't rely on seeds. After the flowers fade, something remarkable happens at those same nodes. The plant produces florigen, the flowering hormone that triggers this next phase. Leaves begin to emerge, forming tiny plantlets, the spinnerets, complete with their own developing root systems. This is the plant's primary reproductive strategy, not sexual reproduction through seeds, but vegetative cloning through these little aerial babies. It's efficient, it's reliable, and it's why a single spider plant can colonize entire stretches of forest floor in its native African habitat, forming what botanists describe as dominant stands in moist river valleys. One gardener documented having a spider plant over 40 years old, originally from their mother's collection, that continues to flower and produce offspring to this day. 40 years. Generations of babies from a single plant. Most spider plants reach flowering maturity in about 2 to 3 years, though some sources suggest they can reach flowering size within a single year under ideal conditions. They prefer temperatures between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, bright indirect light, and the kind of benign neglect that makes them perfect for people who forget to water. The whole cycle, from flowering stem to bloom to baby plant, is one of the most elegant reproductive strategies in the plant kingdom. It's a system built on reading darkness, responding to confinement, and turning stress into new life. So the next time you spot those tiny white stars on your spider plant, you're not just looking at flowers. You're looking at a 230-year-old mystery that scientists are still debating, an evolutionary survival mechanism honed across millennia in African river valleys, and a plant that decided in the quiet of your living room that it was time to send its children out into the world. All you have to do is not repot it.